the first Learn and Share conference call of 2012. The topic is Social Security Disability Benefits, and we're very pleased to have with us tonight as our guest speaker Karen STARR of STARR Disability Advocates, and that's in Grand Rapids, right?
Yes.
Okay. And did you want to start off by just introducing yourself and kind of giving an overview of your experience with this topic, and also mention any specific experience that you might have working with clients who have epilepsy?
Okay. Again, my name is Karen STARR, and I have worked in the disability management field for over 20 years. I worked as a medical case manager and vocational case manager. Mostly when I started, I worked workers' compensation, auto no fault, any sort of long-term, short-term disability program. So I've always worked in disability management. And in doing that, I had an opportunity to work for the Social Security Administration as an expert witness. So I worked during the hearings. The administrative law judge would ask me hypothetical questions about an individual's work, and then give me a series of medical impairments and physical restrictions, and then I would have to come up with a list of jobs that the person could do if they could do any work. So I did that for a couple years for Social Security, in which I learned a ton, but I did not necessarily like that work, but it was a great opportunity for me. The reason why I didn't like it is because I was in a building with no windows and all day long. It drove me crazy, but I learned a lot in that. And one of the things I really learned or caught on to quick was that a lot of the attorneys or representatives did not meet their clients or know anything about the clients until the day of the hearing. And that's why I decided to start representing clients, because I knew with the counseling background I could do a better job of that, bringing the counseling approach to the disability case management for Social Security disability.
You've seen it from both sides then, really.
Right. I've seen it from the plaintiff, defense, from Social Security side, and then from the claimant side.
Right.
So it brought a good background for me to do this type of work. On a personal note, my sister had epilepsy as a child, and I grew it in adolescence. Okay. And I have worked with individuals with epilepsy. Generally speaking, in today's Social Security world, an individual will have a diagnosis of epilepsy and some other impairment. Generally, it's not just the epilepsy that is solely the impairment.
Right.
It does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying it's much harder nowadays to get Social Security, and they're much more strict with what they will allow and not allow with epilepsy.
Well, that's really good to know. That's important.
Yeah, it has really changed over the years. It really has.
What type of impairments would you necessarily see along with epilepsy?
Along with epilepsy, we'll generally see depression.
Okay.
Just because of loss of function, loss of social function, just the loss. Mm-hmm. So we'll see depression and anxiety, panic attacks. Those types of things are common to go hand in hand. And then we'll also sometimes see loss of IQ, so then we will be able to obviously document that and document if they had performed a skilled job in the past, if they have the inability to perform skilled work. That is helpful.
Okay.
And obviously memory problems are a huge problem for people with epilepsy as well. So for many people.
Correct, and side effects from medication.
Side effects from medication, right. So let's start out by describing the two main types of Social Security disability benefits, SSI and SSDI. And can you tell us what those stand for, and then also give kind of an overview of the purpose of the two different benefits, who's eligible, and what types of benefits are provided?
Sure. SSI is Supplemental Security Income. It is considered a welfare program by Social Security Administration, meaning that an individual does not have to pay into that program. They don't have to have worked to be eligible for that program, but there are monetary requirements to be eligible. So if you are married you cannot have an income between you and your spouse of more than $3,000 per month, and including resources. Resources meaning one vehicle, one wedding ring. They're pretty strict on what they will allow you to have and not have. If you are a single person and live with, say, a family member, they will consider 1/3 in-kind support from whatever family member you are living with. That's just an automatic. They will consider food stamps. They will consider cash assistance from DHS or state disability, so they will offset that. The maximum amount that one can be paid for SSI per month is set. I'm just going to do SSI and then I'll go to SSDI. I won't compare them off the bat because it's harder to get to that point. And SSI, they just changed it in January 1st. Last year was $674 per month. So it's not a lot of money. And also it is, you're only eligible for, they increased it to $698. I was just looking at my notes. I knew that they increased it not by much. You're not eligible for Medicare, but you are eligible for Medicaid, which would be through the state agency. And what's interesting about that is that just because you are eligible for Medicaid through the state, if you apply for Medicaid through the state and are awarded, it is not an automatic that you'll get Social Security disability. However, if you get Social Security disability, the state will automatically give you Medicaid.
Okay.
We'll figure. I don't know.
That's a huge.
Yes, excuse me. I know I do have it. I've been having seizures. I was 2 years old. I get no problem.
Right. So that is a huge benefit because we hear a lot of people who are getting turned away who normally would be eligible for Medicaid, who are told that they just don't have enough money to take on new clients or new people who will receive benefits. So the fact that it's automatic with SSI is another incentive, I guess.
Right.
Okay.
So if you did get Medicaid, is that, but that doesn't guarantee you SSI though.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
If you get Medicaid through the state, just applying through DHS for Medicaid does not guarantee that you'll get Social Security disability. But if you are awarded Social Security disability benefits, then the state will pay the Medicaid.
Right.
That's an automatic.
What is the monthly limit income?
For SSI, for an individual.
Well, I'm a widow.
Okay, for an individual, it is 1,000. They just increased it, so it's let's see, it is $1,011. And then, actually, it's more than that. It's 2,000. The resource limit is 2,000, and if you're married, it's 3,000.
Okay, what would be the limit income if I wanted to try for SSI?
Your resource limit would be $2,000 for an individual.
So my late husband's pension add into that too, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And that $2,000 also includes the 1/3 income if you were living with a family member?
Correct.
Okay.
And any state assistance.
Okay. Now, when you say 1/3 income, and you both parents work, do they do the combined total income or just one?
Just they just consider 1/3 of the total in-kind income.
Okay. Okay.
And so Medicare or SSI is a program that Social Security, in my opinion, it's harder to get than SSDI. Okay. And I believe the reason why that is because if you go to the administrative law judge level or the hearing level, judges are more apt to award benefits to somebody that has worked in the past.
That's interesting. Okay.
Just my opinion.
I believe you're right. I do. I believe you're right.
Yeah, they look at that.
I've worked it since I was 5. And throughout my years, I have had seizures, but I just never reported them to my job, or to doctors. Until 2010, I had a 15-minute seizure. I've never had that one like that last that long. In the meantime, I work for Ford, and I've been there. Actually, this year would have been 16 years, but I've been off on medical because it caused all sorts of problems. I've got neuropathy. I have thyroid problems. The epilepsy, the depression. I've got a bulging disc with a cyst on it, endometriosis. I've got all these different things that are going on now. And the lawyers from Ford called me up, and they asked me to apply for Social Security. And actually, I just found out today that I'm supposed to be in court on the 7th of this month.
Yikes. Has anybody helped you, or you didn't receive any paperwork to let you know that you're supposed to be in court?
No, Social Security called me today, and they said they sent it out on the 31st, which was, yesterday or the day before?
So they have to give you at least 20 days anyways.
So, yeah, I just received it, and I've been trying to get a hold of the attorney, and, I can't get a hold of him. So, I've been scared because, I've always had to have a job with insurance, because of my problem. And
if just to try and ease your concern here, do you or do you not have a representative?
Well, it's like I said, it's the UAW Ford attorneys.
Well, have you signed any paperwork with them? Because what you can do is you can go to the hearing and tell the judge that you would like to see representation, and they will allow you to do that without any penalty. And it sounds as if you haven't signed any paperwork, you're probably really not represented. You were probably just told to do it.
Yeah, I was told to do it, and then they sent me paperwork, told me I had to sign it, that I had to do this. So I signed it, but I really haven't heard a lot from them.
Yeah, that's a pretty specific question for me to try and answer. The specific case. But if I were you, you're going to have to figure out whether or not you are represented. And if you are, obviously you need to talk to that person, or you need to fire that person, and you definitely need to show up at that hearing and tell the judge you do want to see qualified representation. You do not have to have somebody from Ford represent you. You can have somebody else represent you.
Where would I find somebody like that?
Well, if you got any paperwork from Social Security, they have a list of organizations. I advertise word of mouth. There are resources. There's national organizations. There's the National Association of Disability Representatives. That's the organization that I belong to. There's another organization called NOSCR, which is the National Organization of Social Security. Oh, gosh, I can't remember. I think it's representatives. I'm not sure exactly what they stand for, but there are national organizations. You could find a qualified person to represent you. So the other program, SSI is considered Title 16, Supplemental Security Income. The other disability program is SSDI, and SSDI is Title II, and that is based on work credits. So an individual would have to have enough work credits, and generally to figure out if you have enough work credits, you have to take the last 10 years, and you have to have worked 5 of the last 10 years. So when I say that, you need to keep in mind if you've been putting off applying for disability benefits that they take the last 10 years, and years will fall off that you haven't worked. So it's better to apply sooner than later so that you're still insured for this program. Because people think, well, I've worked my entire life, but I haven't worked in the last 5 years. Well, they take the last 10 years, and if you have to have worked at least 5 of those last 10 years. So it's important to remember that.
That's really important. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it is, because a lot of people will put it off, and if you put it off too long, you're no longer insured.
If you haven't worked for 5 years, you lose everything, huh?
Correct. You're no longer insured unless you can prove your disability back to a date before you lost your insurance into the program. The longer you wait, the harder that is to do.
I've been on disability for a long time now.
Okay.
I've had seizures for a long time, so I'm on disability.
Okay, then that wouldn't really matter for you. Once you're on disability, the work credits wouldn't matter because you're already been deemed disabled and you're in pay status, so that would not make any difference for you.
But I have work though.
Okay. So
and then if you're on SSI, I got a question about that. If you're on SSI, you're only allowed about that's $674 a month or less. Is that SSI?
The individual, the payment for the individual, they've just increased it to $698 per month.
Okay, $698 a month.
Correct.
So $698 but $698 or less is SSI, huh?
Correct.
But then they told me that you're only allowed about $2,000 in the bank if you have that. Then is that true or not?
That is true.
So it's up
your
to
resources can't be more than $2,000. So if, say, you were to inherit a large sum of money, then you would need to pay that down. You would need to buy things such as a house, a car, depending how much money you got, show that went towards living expenses. In the following month that you had that paid off, you could go back into pay status.
But then if it's higher than $698, it's SSD, right?
If it's higher than $698 per month?
Yeah.
Well, the Title II program, the SSDI program, is higher. That's based on your work credits. So that is higher per month, and you're also eligible for Medicare after 24 months of your alleged onset date.
I'm on Medicare right now.
Okay. So Medicare is a much better program than Medicaid. And the benefits of SSDI is that you're going to earn per month much more, and you do not have to show any resources. You don't have to, it's not based on any income. Your spouse could earn $1 million a year. It doesn't make any difference because it's based on your work credits.
But then I found out that you can have as much money in the bank as you want, and you can own anything you want, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly correct. And you can also work on SSDI. If you're able to work part-time, you can earn up to $720 per month, and that does not count against your monthly check.
So if you're on SSI, it's up to $720 a month.
SSI, no.
I mean on SSD.
SSD, yes.
So if you can make up to $720 a month and still be safe.
Correct.
And not lose anything. Well, see, I was told before you can make up to $1,000 a month and still be safe.
Well, you could have if you were still in the process of the application, but once you're awarded benefits, it goes down to $720 per month.
Okay, $720 a month.
Right. Prior to, it's $1,010 per month. They just changed it January 1st. It used to be $1,000.
Okay, so it used to be $1,000.
Correct. Yeah, they just changed it January 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the benefit of the SSDI program is that your monthly benefit amount will be much higher. And if you look on your statement from Social Security Disability that you get around your birthday every year, except for last year because they couldn't afford to send them out, but you can call your field office and they will tell you your amount.
I was at the bank and they said I was getting $936 a month now.
That's real good. There's some people that get up to $2,000 a month.
Oh yeah.
So it's a much better program. The other thing with SSDI is that if you have dependent children, they will also have ancillary benefits based on your disability until they're age 18. And if you have a student loan out for a child, then that will be waived as well.
Yeah.
Excuse me. When you need help and everything, you need somebody around you looking after you, and you pay them. What about that?
I guess I don't understand your question.
Do you mean if you need someone like 24-hour care or someone,
yes,
like a personal assistant or someone to be there, just in case you had a seizure? That's not something that's covered under either program, correct?
It would be covered under Medicare. You have to be written by your doctor. And generally, I don't know the ins and outs of Medicare, but that is only for a limited amount of time. I don't know that they will do that on a continuous basis,
right.
From what I understand.
Right.
Yeah, not long term, but I do think it is a benefit, but I don't know the length of time that will even be a benefit.
Clinton, I can talk.
Excuse me.
I can talk about that. Another time, there's a program called the Home Help Program. That can pay. You can pay a relative or a friend or someone else who to provide that care for you. So I can tell you a little bit more about that. Okay.
Well, yes, I was wondering. I know I had some problems with that right there.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I just heard her say, sorry, Karen. You said something about like say my daughter in college.
Right.
That because I've been disabled for 20 years at least. And when she went to college, they had me sign a form for her to get a loan. It did say student parent loan on it, but I told them I was disabled. My income was $180 a month, and I was ineligible for a loan. But I have been charged for a loan payment now for 6 years. Yeah, 6 years. And I'm fighting that.
Are you on Social Security disability?
Yes.
Yep, they should.
And I'm a widow and everything.
Is it a federal loan?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, they should waive that.
And I have been fighting it, and every time I get phone calls, it's a different company.
Yeah, that's the problem. They build their loans, and then you get somebody new, and then you have to argue with them.
Right, and the latest company is called Great Lakes, and they're saying, no, that I have to pay it because I signed that form.
So it doesn't really matter. Yeah.
So what can I do about that? Because I'm still fighting.
Yeah, you're going to have to keep fighting it.
Okay.
And I would send, or if you get somebody that's competent that you're dealing with, print off from the internet the waiver for. Okay. I don't know if anybody at the field office, Social Security field office, gave you a copy of that.
No, they did not.
You can ask them for a copy of it, or you can look on the internet and just print it off, and then send that in each and every time that they send you a bill.
Yeah, because they also, every year I've got to get different medical examinations. New ones every year. It's going crazy.
Yeah. That's what it is a hard thing. It is a hard thing to have it waived, but they're supposed to do that. Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, I know that a lot of people struggle with this.
Well, they told me, my husband passed away nearly 6 years ago, and they told me they would waive it. I'm still fighting it.
Oh, jeez.
Because it keeps switching companies.
Right. It's just really incompetency. It is all it really is.
Okay.
So I would just keep fighting it, and like I said, print that waiver off, send it to them every single time. And I don't know if you could get somebody to help you with that. The problem is that there's no payment for them to help you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I had an attorney a year ago, and we did everything they said, and that Great Lakes sent me a bill about 2 months ago.
Oh, geez.
And I'm fighting that again.
Then, because he's got to have something in writing that he can send or she can send again.
I've been sending a letter every year. My yearly income is $0.
Yeah.
And I guess they said I had to prove that for 3 years. Well, I'm on my 5th year.
Yeah.
Really, you seem like they should get those calls to get monitored.
Well, they monitor the calls.
So
and I've got them on my phone, too.
Yeah, sorry you're going through that. That's a tough one.
Yeah. I might as well go back to school. I said I might as well go back to school.
Yeah.
So are there any other key differences or similarities between the two programs that you think should be pointed out?
Well, the similarities are you still have to have a medical problem. You have to be disabled or be likely to be disabled for 12 months to be eligible for them. An application for SSI, if you apply for SSI, is an automatic application for SSDI, but it's the other way around. If you went in and applied for SSDI, it's not an automatic application for SSI.
Okay.
It's one of Social Security's rules, so just so that you know that. The other thing with SSDI, you can go back 12 months on your application and get paid for 12 full back pay for 12 full months. With SSI, if you're awarded benefits, it's the month you get paid the month after your application. So with SSDI, there's a chance of back pay. With SSI, there's not. Well, there is a chance of back pay if you wait long enough, if you're denied and go through the process, but you cannot go back from your application date. And you also can't have children. You don't get paid per child on SSI.
Now, on SSDI, if I'm not mistaken, you can only make so much money.
If you're on benefit, you can make $720 per month.
Are there special eligibility requirements or application procedures for children with disabilities for SSI?
Yeah, it is basically the same SSI application for an adult.
Okay.
A parent or a guardian would have to fill that out. There's different criteria for children, but the application process is basically the same. In SSI, you cannot apply online for SSI. You have to either apply at your local field office, your local Social Security field office, or you can do a phone application. You can call and set up a phone application, but you cannot do it online. SSDI, you can do an online application.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that. So SSI, you can't do it online?
No. They don't allow you to do that online, unfortunately.
How come?
Because that's a good question. This is what they tell me. Is because they have to ask you several resource questions about income. And why they can't let you do your application and then call you and ask you those questions, I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Is the criteria any different for children than what you gave before for like a married couple with a child?
Oh, you mean the resources?
No, the criteria for the child to qualify.
The disability? The criteria is different. There's a different set of listings for children than there are for adults. They're basically the same, but disability is defined differently because obviously children don't work. So it's more their ability to function as a normal child would, depending upon their age.
Okay. And then is it based on parents' income?
For SSI?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, they can still be eligible for SSI if their parents are over the income.
Oh, they can?
Yeah. Generally, it's a child if it's no longer a child, either 17, 18, and older.
Okay.
What if it's a newborn?
If it's a newborn, then no, they take the parents' income into consideration.
And that's the same as before, like the $3,000 a month for married and.
Correct.
Okay.
Miss Karen, I have a question regarding that. You said 17 and 18?
Well, if they're at the age where the test change is at age 18, when they will do a reconsideration. If you're on SSI as a child, they will then do a reconsideration at age 18 to see if you're now disabled as an adult.
Oh, I see. I'm calling on behalf of my son. He started sneezing at 14 months, and back when he was 3, I applied for the SSI, and they granted it, and then they said, oh, no, you make too much money. Right. So they said reapply when he's 18,
right?
Because then they won't take our money into effect.
They'll take 1/3 of it. Unless you have some sort of agreement, like payback agreement, you can do a contract where you actually write it out that if he's awarded benefits, he will be paying you back room and board.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then you can set your room and board you want?
Right. Right.
See, I didn't know how to go about it. He's 20 now, and I guess I kind of waited too long, and I just went on the Epilepsy Walkathon, and I saw some attorneys there, and I was wondering, should I hire an attorney as far as representing him to get the benefits, or...
You can. I mean, you can do that, and you can try to do it on your own as well. It's whatever you feel comfortable doing. But, so he's not receiving benefit now?
No.
And
he hasn't worked, so you mentioned the SSDI.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to have worked
to be eligible for SSDI, but he may be eligible for SSI, especially now that he's considered an adult.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I just need to get an application somehow.
Right. You can, like I said, you can call the field office and set up an appointment to do it via phone, which I always advise, or you can go in and do an application. If you go in, then you're going to be sitting there for a long period of time, and they're not as nice if you have them call you, because then you get somebody that just does that via the phone.
Okay. And since he is 20 and of age, he would have to answer the questions, because I don't think he could really...
You can answer them.
Tolerate us.
So you can do that as his parent. You can do that as
I can?
And
okay.
What I generally tell people when it comes to SSI, I generally tell them to try and do it on your own first, unless, of course, somebody really can't. Then I obviously will help them. But in general, I would tell them to try and do it on their own first and then contact me if they're denied.
Okay. All righty.
Because it's just that process that we really can't do their application for them. So if they are awarded benefits, we get paid for doing very little.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Someone else have a question?
Yes, how do they contact you if that happens?
If you're denied?
Yeah.
You can contact me. I don't know if you had posted my phone number on there or contact information.
I haven't, but if you want to provide that now to everyone, you can.
Sure. My direct dial number is 616-363-4500. And my email address is kind of long, but it's K, the letter K, STARR, STARR, at STARR, STARR, AND, Associates, ASSOCIATES.net.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Sure.
So what about adult children who have a disability who are maybe living at home? What options are available for them?
Well, if they're living at home and they have a disability, I generally tell the parents to just write up a contract. It just has to be a simple contract, and you need to do it before you apply for the benefit. And it doesn't have to be like a legalese contract. Just if Joey is awarded benefits, Social Security disability benefits, he will pay us back $320 per month for room and board, and then he will pay $30 per month for groceries. That's generally what I tell people to write, and Social Security will accept that.
300. And why is that?
Well, just because they're only going to get $698 a month.
Okay.
So you want to have it at least half of that. You want to get the 1/3, make it at least equal 1/3 of $698, so that he gets the full $698.
Oh, okay.
Either you do or he does, because they will then, ensure that he pays you whatever the 1/3 part is.
Okay.
But that way, Social Security isn't keeping that 1/3.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And it can just be a handwritten thing with signatures and dates.
Absolutely. Handwritten signatures and a date on it, and you're good.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they don't expect anything complicated.
Okay.
Okay. So how is disability defined for SSI and SSDI? What are some of the questions that are asked to determine whether someone meets that definition?
Well, the definition is if you're able to perform substantial gainful activity. And substantial gainful activity is considered full-time work, or if you're able to earn $1,000 or more per month. So disability really is defined by your ability to participate in work and earn over $1,000 per month. Now, as we talked about before, for SSDI, that drops down to $720 after your awarded benefits per month. And then your impairment is expected to last or has lasted 12 consecutive months.
Okay. Now, along with epilepsy, if you have something else going on that has lasted a lot more than that, would that be considered too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that would be considered too. But remember, with SSI, you're only awarded benefits the month after the application, so there's no back pay. There's no going back in time.
Right.
Yeah,
but we're talking like a learning disability and reading, math, and...
Yeah, and the school probably has some records.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, then you need to submit. Well, you don't need to submit it. You need to tell them the school that he attended and ask them to obtain the IEP plans.
Okay.
And they will. Well, I shouldn't say they will. They're supposed to. They don't always obtain the records that they're supposed to.
Okay.
Is it worth, Karen, talking about the 5 questions that they ask in terms of
the sequential process?
Yeah. Or is that not really necessary to know that?
Well, I mean, it's important in the process, but not necessarily. Basically, the person has to not be working, engaging in substantial gainful activity. Right. They have to have a medical impairment. Whether it meets a listing or not, it is not necessarily. It's great if you meet a listing.
Yeah.
Extremely hard to meet a listing. Doesn't happen very often.
Oh, okay.
And then if you don't meet a listing but have an impairment or several impairments, if you can do your past relevant work, then you're not disabled. And then if you can do any job in the workforce, you're not disabled. And that's our job as your representative to show, A, you can't do your past relevant work, and then B, there's no job you could do on a consistent basis in the national economy.
And does that include
multiple seizures weekly, and your left side is like paralyzed to you, and your right hand has been wrist has been cut? How do you deal with that? What do they qualify that as?
Well, if you have the inability to use one, if it's your dominant hand, they will still come up with jobs that you could do. I mean, there are light jobs you could do that don't require the use of your hands. It depends on your age, too. They take age into consideration, the skill level of the past work that you performed. Those are all things that are taken into consideration.
And you don't have your memory is not good also.
Well, then, as you add things on, of course, then it's going to eliminate more and more jobs.
What if that person hasn't worked? That person works, but they haven't worked in the last 10 years.
Well, unless you can prove disability prior to your date last insured, you could apply for SSI. But if you can prove disability prior to your date last insured, I mean, even if it's 10 years ago, we've done that, we've done 10, 15, 20 years ago, if we can prove it. Now, you have to be able to prove it. You have to have the medical documentation to prove it.
Is a gunshot wound to the head proof enough?
Well, believe it or not, it can and can't be. It depends upon, the evidence that's provided. We've had in this you'll find funny, but it's not. It's sad. Depending upon what evidence Social Security has as well. I mean, we've had vent-dependent quadriplegics that have applied and been denied. They're only denied because Social Security did not request the correct records. So they didn't have the medical records showing how severe the disability was. So, if somebody calls me with that, I'm like, you don't need me. You just need to get the records in,
So if the doctor says all that,
mm-hmm.
and the neurosurgeon says that everything I just said, then what was that?
Well, you have to have not just that you have a gunshot wound to the head or gunshot. That doesn't mean anything. They have to show. Yeah, they have to show how that impairs your ability to function on a daily basis, to take care of yourself, to bathe, to feed yourself.
Someone has to bathe the person and feed the person.
Well, if they had to do all those things, those are the things that you would need to show Social Security, not just the simple diagnosis, but how that affects your ability to work.
Okay.
So when they're considering whether or not you can work in a job, do they consider in this theoretical job, do they consider whether or not you would have accommodations? I mean,
Social Security can't consider accommodations.
What was that?
Accommodated work. Social Security cannot consider accommodated work.
Oh, okay.
So meaning if you have to have accommodated work, then you would be considered disabled. They cannot, they're not, as part of the process, just having been a vocational expert for them, right. They cannot consider accommodated work.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, just like using a cane, they have to take into consideration if you're using a cane, you really can only do a one-handed job.
Because a lot of people with epilepsy probably can do a lot of works, but they require accommodations to do so, like flexible scheduling, or ability to work different hours if, for instance, they miss time due to a seizure. There's a variety of different accommodations that would allow someone to work, but if those aren't considered, then that would then increase chances of getting SSI.
Correct, absolutely. That would increase their chances. It just has to be written by a treating physician, and when I say a treating physician, it has to be a medical doctor. Mm-hmm. It can't be a PA. If you see a PA, you have to have your record signed by a medical doctor. They don't accept PAs, nurse practitioners, chiropractors. Social Security won't accept those as sources, medical sources.
Will they accept a neurosurgeon?
I'm sorry?
A neurosurgeon is a medical doctor.
Yes.
So that would count. What about a DO?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, all right. So what types of medical evidence and documentation? We started talking about that, but what types are typically needed to meet the requirements?
Well, for someone with epilepsy, it is vital to have somebody that can testify to your seizure activity, other than your doctor. You need to have somebody that has seen your seizure activity and be able to testify to that effect. You also need to have, EEG. You need to have some sort of documentation to continued seizure activity. With blood work, they can test the therapeutic level of medications. Social Security is very, very big on compliance with medications because their theory is that with the recent anticonvulsant medication, the advances in the medication, most people with epilepsy, the seizures are controlled. That's their stance. And so if there's any sign of noncompliance in your file, you need to make sure that it's discussed with the doctor. It could be your metabolism. It could be a lot of different reasons why you don't have a therapeutic level. You just have to be documented. The doctor just can't say non-compliant because that appears as if you're not taking the medication as prescribed.
Yeah. Well, also with my son, he's probably had some documented non-compliance. Also, in that figuration is his learning disability.
Right.
And his memory is just...
And that's fine. You would be fine there. That would be very well covered.
Okay.
He probably needs reminders to take his medication.
Oh, he does.
Yep, that's fine. Yeah. That would be okay. That's a reasonable reason why somebody wouldn't take their medication.
Okay. Okay.
So who would need to document that then?
Correct.
The doctor would need to document that?
Yep, the doctor would need to document that. Your son lives with you, so you could document that. He needs reminders. We try and give him, the independence. He's striving towards being independent. However, it doesn't always happen, and this is the reason why, because of the learning disability. And of course, you would have that well documented as well.
Okay.
And as far as being able to drive back and forth to work, do they take that into consideration at all with the lack of public transportation? No. Okay.
No, they don't care. They really don't. And they don't care if you have a felony. They don't, they're not going to take anything like that into consideration. It's strictly medical.
Okay.
And so I'm assuming then the frequency of seizures has to be documented as well, not just simply saying patient has complex partial seizures that are intractable or refractory to treatment.
Correct.
They have to say that how often they occur, I assume.
Exactly. And they changed the listing. It has to be more than, I was just trying to look at my notes. I think it has to be more than once. You have to have it more than once per year. I'll look really quick here. It has to occur frequently. If they happen, what they really love to see is an extended EEG, like over a 3-day period. Social Security really loves those. I don't know why, but they really do like those because they can see over a period of time.
Right.
The one that I just had was 48 hours.
Okay. So that would be great. So it has to,
particularly if it shows lots of seizures at that time too. I mean, 48-hour EEG that shows nothing would probably not be good. So.
Not be helpful.
Right.
For convulsive seizures, they must occur more frequently than once per month, in spite of 3 months of prescribed treatment in which the person was compliant with.
Having a grand mal seizure, I have to have it more than once a month?
Correct. This is just to meet a listing. And when I say that most people don't need a listing, most people don't need a listing for any of the impairments because it's very hard to meet a listing. If the convulsive seizures, if they occur during the day, they must also involve loss of consciousness and convulsions, of course. And if they occur at night, they must have the effect of interfering with the individual's activities of daily living the following day.
Yeah, that's like
most of the time. Yeah.
And if they're non-convulsive, then they must occur more frequently than 3 times per week.
Well, I know it will seem like a seizure law would be good with something like that.
Right. Absolutely. That's a very good statement because a lot of people do keep seizure logs, and that's very helpful.
Most people, like you said, don't meet all this criteria.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It generally don't.
So is meeting a listing, is that basically like an automatic qualification then?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
It is.
Right. So if you don't meet the listing, that's not uncommon. There are other ways then to
just move on to the next step.
Right.
The next step is, if you have depression, if you have anything else that interferes with your ability to work on a consistent basis.
Well, that's like I've been going to psychiatrist and therapist for over a year now. They say I have severe depression. I also have a lot of stress where I get stabbing pains in my heart. Mm-hmm. I have been hospital for that, and they just say it's stress. Go see your doctor.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that they blow people off like that. It is very important that you have a doctor. I always tell people, well, should I change doctors? I said, well, do you trust that doctor? Is that doctor really working to the best of your...
Well, that was ER.
Well, yeah, that's ER, but when you're looking at disability, if a doctor's not willing to help you fill out paperwork, I would see a different doctor because why are they afraid to fill out the paperwork? A doctor is never going to be called to testify for Social Security disability. Social Security will never do it because they don't have the time to do it, and they're never going to pay a doctor to do it. They may send you to one of their doctors for a one-time evaluation, but they're never going to call your doctor in to testify.
But excuse me, but then I was also, that computer tells a lot. Like, I know, like, I was younger, then, or you go to another hospital, give me the information, everything, it's on the computer, snap, pull up all your records.
Right.
No problem at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So do you need a lawyer if you have all that already done? Still?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the whole question. I apologize.
Do you still need to acquire a lawyer if you have all that?
Well, you know, I'm apprehensive to tell you that you ever need to have a representative, because the Social Security system is supposed to be developed that you do not need representation. But I can tell you, in working for Social Security and now also working to help people to get the benefits, they will look for reasons to deny you, even in the paperwork that you fill out about your daily activities. People don't understand how to fill out all of their paperwork. So if they ask you, do you have any problems with bathing, dressing, and you may say no, but then you may have to make accommodations. Like, you may have to wear clothes that do not have any buttons or zippers. You may not be able to put on socks. You may not be able to bend over to put your socks on, so you don't wear socks. You wear slip-on shoes. You need a shower. You need handrails in handrails in the shower. You may not be able to do those things where you answer yes, that you don't have a problem. Then you're not really helping yourself, and they will go back. I've had judges in a hearing say, well, in their paperwork they said that they could take care of themselves, no problems. It's like, well, they didn't understand how to fill the paperwork out, and if you would have asked them, well, how do you do this? Well, I have to sit down. I have to use a assist to put on my pants. I have to use a handheld device, to do any of these things. Or I have to wait until a certain time when my medication kicks in to be able to do X. You have to be able to fill out that paperwork very thoroughly.
Yes.
You have to even wipe your own behind. You can't wipe your own behind.
Right. But they're embarrassed to say they can't, so they will say, they don't have any problems. But some people can't do that, and they need to document it.
So really, in Social Security's eyes, not being able to do something without accommodation is the same as not being able to do something.
Right.
Right. So
right.
That's interesting.
And every piece of evidence that you submit, every piece of paper that you submit to them, they can use against you. So you have to be very careful on how you fill out the paperwork.
So go ahead.
I have a question on behalf of my husband, who had epilepsy for more than 20 years. And he was laid off in 2009. And since then he had other few jobs, but now he is on unemployment. Okay. Because he had a seizure at his last workplace. And after the seizure, they kept him for another month, and then they let him go because of lack of work.
Okay.
My question is, how can we prove the condition that someone is disabled for 12 consecutive months?
Mm-hmm.
When
you don't necessarily have to have the 12 consecutive months before you apply. And because he was on unemployment, that does not affect his SSDI. They will not hold that against him. They will not hold any of those wages against him. So that still counts as not being able to work, even though he collected unemployment, because he was saying at that time, I will work if I can have a job with these accommodations, within these restrictions, these guidelines. So unemployment shouldn't hurt you in your application. You should try and go back as far as you can. If he had more than 3 months where he earned over $1,000 per month, then you'd have to go back to that period of time. Does that answer your question? Was that your question, or did I not?
Yes.
Answer?
No, this is the question, and I also like to understand how much is the SSDA going to pay in benefits.
you know what you can do? You can call your field office, your local field office, and ask them that question. Last year they did not send out statements that says that information, so you can call them and they have to tell you that over the phone. And you can even go online and request that they send you a copy of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I can't tell you because it's dependent upon how many work credits he has and then how much each of those credits, how much he was paid. So there's not, for each person it's different.
So the benefit is not like a percent of what he earned at that time?
It is. It's based on how many work credits he has and then how much money he earned per quarter, per 3-month period.
Okay.
I know it's hard to understand, but they consider quarters. That's how you earn the work credits. Each credit is per quarter of work, and it's how much money that he earned during that quarter of work.
So somebody who is on SSDI can also look for work?
Correct. They can also look for work and earn up to $720 per month.
$720 per month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So just to summarize again, with documentation, medical evidence, you have to really be sure to include anything, not just the seizures. That's very important, but you also have to include anything, any documentation on memory problems or other cognitive problems, depression, medication side effects, anxiety disorders, any seizure-related injuries you may have, and also the post-ictal effects, so the period of recovery after a seizure. I would think would be important as well. So if you have a seizure and it only lasts, 2 minutes, but then you're wiped out for 2 days after, that's important to document.
That's correct. And what's also important to document is if you are working for an employer and they made accommodations for you. Most employers are more than willing to document any accommodation that they made for you. Because what that shows is that, you're able to work for a period of time, but you had accommodations.
Okay.
They wouldn't let me work.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you have a letter from your employer saying, sorry, you can't return to work with your condition because of X, Y, or Z, save that letter. That's great documentation.
All right.
Okay. Let's talk about the typical timeline for getting SSI or SSDI or getting approved, including the time to gather information and complete the application process, the time to wait for a decision, and then the time to appeal, and all of that. I guess what's the range of time? It can take as little as X or as long as Y. So.
Yeah. Well, the application process, I always tell people, don't get all your records and then apply. Go ahead and apply because it takes Social Security so long to get your records anyways, and to send, there's so much paperwork that they're going to send you staggered over a period of time that you just go ahead and apply and get your whatever evidence that you feel you need to get during that period of time. And during your application process is very important because financially it's very important. During the initial application, it is Social Security's responsibility to get your medical records. It's your responsibility to tell them which physician to get them from, but it's their responsibility to get them, and that's at no cost to you. So you need to be very careful and make sure you list every single place that you went for every test, every hospital you went for any test, any clinic you went for any testing, and all your treating physicians and specialists that you see. And then, because after they've made their initial decision, then we have to pay for records, for medical records, and it's very expensive. So I always tell people, make sure if you're going to apply on your own, be very careful in your documentation there. The application process, the initial application, generally takes from 3 to 5 months for them to make a decision. And during that period of time, likely, depending upon your age, if you're a younger individual, they're likely to send you to one of their physicians for a consultative evaluation.
How are you talking?
I'm sorry?
What?
How old are you talking?
If you're under 50.
Okay, I'm 42.
Yeah.
At least.
Generally, they will send you to one of their physicians. Not always, but generally. So during that initial application process, you'll do your application. You'll do an adult function report, this is all the paperwork. They'll send you a ADLs, meaning what do you do from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed, and then how you function on a daily limit or daily basis. That's one form. If you have worked, they'll send you a work history questionnaire. So there's a lot of paperwork that they send you staggered during.
They sent me all that, and I filled it all out to the best of my knowledge.
Nobody offered you any help from Ford, or if you were represented, generally a representative would review all that before you sent it in.
Right, and they sent it back to me again, and I had to fill more out, and I was like, I was confused as to what they were wanting from me.
Yeah. It's confusing, definitely. All that paperwork is very confusing.
So it sounds to me like if you have significant memory problems and maybe you don't have a strong support system, someone who can help you with all the forms, and you find the forms confusing, that seems like a really good situation or a good example of when you would want to get representation to help you through that process.
Yeah, I definitely say that's a good time. And if you are denied, say that you go through the 3 to 5 months, you get your denial. And I have to tell you that within the last year, it has really, they have denied almost everybody. I mean, I can't say they've denied everybody because they haven't, but the Social Security has really put the brakes on approving at the initial level. Not that they were ever willing to do it before, but they really have cut back where cases in the past I would have said, oh, this is an easy, approval on the initial. And now it's unbelievable that they will deny almost everybody. So don't be discouraged at a denial at your initial application. So if you are denied, you have 60 days to do an appeal. The appeal is very simple, actually. They make the appeal process simple. You have to do it within 60 days. If you don't, you have to have good cause. If you moved and didn't get your notice, if there was a death in the family, there has to be, if you were hospitalized, there has to be a good reason why you didn't do it within 60 days. And if you don't do it within 60 days, you have to start the whole process over again. So it's important to appeal. And then once you appeal, it generally takes 1 to 2 years to have a hearing, depending upon where you live. So 5 months is unheard of. Not saying it's not happening, because obviously it is happening for somebody here, but generally a year to 2 years before you go before the administrative law judge. One thing that I do, and part of it is because I work for Social Security and I know that you can do this as an easier or quicker way to get approved, is submit an on-the-record request to one of the senior attorneys and ask them, hey, will you review this file for me and see if you can approve it? I do that all the time and get people award benefits sooner than they'd have to wait for a hearing.
Okay.
If you have to wait for a hearing that goes before the administrative law judge, I would highly advise you have representation at that level because judges tend to deny those people that aren't represented because it's easier than if you are represented.
Okay.
Just a fact that is the way that will go. And then if you're denied after the hearing, you can go to the appeals council. Again, you have 60 days to fill out that appeal. Right now we're looking at 1 to 2 years before they even respond to us at the appeals council level. So, and they've changed the ruling where before you could appeal your hearing decision and also do a new application and start another application. Now you have to choose. Do you want to appeal the hearing application, or do you want to start a new application? And what's important to remember about that is your date last insured. If you're past your date last insured when they made the hearing decision, you absolutely want to appeal the hearing decision. If you're not, then you need to consider, okay, do I want to wait another 2 years in general before the appeals council will make up their mind if they're going to approve it, or they may send it back to the same judge to hear the case again.
Okay.
So those are things to consider.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Russ?
Yes.
Russ?
Yeah.
It's Greg. Sure.
Yep.
What if you decide to move from one spot in the state to another? Does that create any complications for a person?
No, it shouldn't. But then again, the field offices aren't always that so you need to make sure that you provide in writing to the field office your change of address.
Yeah. And if
just
you
calling
have
them is
to
going to help you.
Get records from your doctor, too.
What's that? I didn't hear the part about the records from the doctor.
I said you have to have all your records from your doctor, too, right?
You don't necessarily have to have a physical copy of your records. Social Security should obtain those records on their own.
Okay.
So when you mentioned that the Social Security's responsibility to get the records, if you know that you're planning on applying, should you ask to review your records at least from your primary neurologist to look and see how detailed they are? And if they're not detailed enough, should you ask the doctor to redo some of the notes or to add notes or add a letter or something to go into more detail?
Well, here's the difficult part about that. Social Security won't allow you to look at their file until after they've made their initial decision. So after they've made their initial decision, then you can look at all the records that they have in their file and look at your doctor's records.
And then
so at that point, we do. Yeah, we look at those. And what I generally do, again, having worked for Social Security, there's a form that all judges use. It's called Residual Functional Capacity Questionnaire. I send that to the docs, and I have a specific one for epilepsy or seizures that I will send to the treating doc and say, can you fill this out? And it's very precise on medications, on seizure activity, on everything that we would need for the hearing or for an approval. So.
I may be overstepping my bounds here, but is there a possibility that you could send a copy of that to me?
Well, it's a form that it's kind of a form that I created, and it helps me to get cases approved.
That's fine.
It's kind of.
So you are a lawyer. You can be called.
No, I'm a non-attorney representative, and what that means is that in order for me to practice before the Social Security Administration, I had to take a test. I had to pass that test, and I have to, I have a master's degree, and I've worked in the disability field. So they will approve me to work every level of Social Security disability claims except for the Supreme Court, which, of course, I don't even know any attorneys that I work with that have ever gone to that level. So I can do everything. I get paid the same as an attorney. I can do everything an attorney can do except for at that highest level.
So what are some things that people should consider before deciding to apply? And if you speak with an advocate or a disability representative before making that decision, would a representative be able to tell you, is this a waste of time or yes, you should pursue this?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I always tell people before they apply to have a heart-to-heart with their doctor. Talk to their doctor, tell them what they're thinking about doing. Get the doctor's support before you start. That way, when you go and ask them to fill out their paperwork, you've already talked about it. It's not a surprise. They know. They've already said they're going to support you. Any representative or any attorney can look at your case or ask you a series of questions and tell you what your chances are of being approved.
Well, then how come some attorneys are reluctant to take on a disability for epilepsy?
Because they don't think they can win it. And we only get paid if you're awarded benefits. Attorneys and non-attorneys can only get paid if you're awarded benefits because we get paid out of any back pay that you would have, 25% of any back pay.
How do you find one that believes in you?
Well, see, that's just it. There are some people that will not take a case unless it's an absolute slam dunk. They're going to win.
Well,
and there are people that are willing to take your case and work it and get the documentation that they need.
You think you need a lawyer you know to do so?
What's that? I'm sorry.
You need a lawyer you know to do so, to get that case.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
You know a lawyer, you get them to do the case. You know one, because I know a judge. You know a lawyer.
Well,
you think you can get them to take care of that case for you?
Just because you know a lawyer doesn't necessarily mean that they're qualified to assist with this type of situation. So you really do need someone who specializes in Social Security disability benefits we have a lot of lists and like Karen said at the beginning, the National Association of Disability Representatives would be a place that you could check for that as well. So there's no shortage of them. It's just finding one that you're comfortable with, basically.
Would you or Karen put that on your website or send it by email to me, or how could I get that?
Do we have a basic number to call?
Do you know the website, Karen, for the National Association of Disability Representatives?
It's very easy. It's NABR.org.
NABR?
No, D as in David.
Oh, D as in R.
NAD.org.
Okay.
If you are looking for a representative, I tell people to find a representative that just does Social Security work. Don't get somebody that's just doing this as a fill-in because they need money. Because I see that all the time at the Social Security office, and they really don't know what they're doing. You need somebody that just does, or the majority of their work is Social Security disability work.
Okay.
And, some of the larger national companies, not all of them, but some of them, I do a lot of their work. They don't talk to you. They don't even call you. They don't return your calls until the day before the hearing. You don't want somebody like that. You want somebody that's going to do an initial assessment. They're going to get your records, and they're going to talk to you about your case along the way.
Okay. Well, you sound like you're very knowledgeable, and do you have names of those people that you've already worked with?
You could, the NADR has a referral line.
Okay.
You can call there. I work the entire state. I can help you, wherever anybody's at. I'm not trying to just advocate for me, but I'm saying that there's other people.
And just to clarify, you're in Michigan, because I know we have Catherine is from Florida, so it may not be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I know people in Florida. I know some really good representatives, actually. Florida. What part of Florida?
Daytona area.
Okay. Yep. I know some really good representatives. I do Michigan and Indiana. I sometimes go to Ohio, go to Wisconsin. Depends.
Just a few last questions about anyone who's already receiving disability benefits. Can you talk a little bit about just how often you're reevaluated, and then what some of the biggest reasons are that people would get their benefits reduced or taken away?
Yeah. They're supposed to reevaluate every 3 years. Excuse me. It doesn't generally happen because Social Security doesn't have the money to do that. Is the bottom line why it doesn't happen. But I got to tell you, I've seen it more and more. Over the last 2 years, they are doing it more and more. And it's very, very important that you maintain a regular contact with your physician. Even if it's, once every 3 months, you need to continue to see the physician. You need to continue to take your medications. If you return to work, even if you only did it for, you tried it, you only lasted a week, you need to report those things to Social Security. Anything like that needs to be reported. The biggest thing is to continue your medical care. If you get your benefits and you don't go back to the doctor for 3 years, you're in trouble. And I know people say, well, I can't afford it. Well, there's free clinics. You have to have some contact with a medical provider during that period of time, or you're really in some big trouble.
And your number was 1-616-363-4500?
Yep, 4500, correct.
All right.
Okay, great. Well, it is 7:30. Does anyone have any last questions or brief questions? Because I know we covered a lot of material and we didn't really have a lot of time for questions, but I think people mostly asked their questions along the way. But if anyone has any last questions who didn't have a chance to ask their questions earlier, now would be the
I got one more question. If you can answer it, I don't know.
Okay, I'll try.
You were talking about people that have to be supervised with their medicine.
Yes.
You were asking about that? After my mother died, my neighbor tried to put me in the group home. My mother had everything all set up in a trust, and my neighbor thought I should be put into a group home. I talked to my doctor, and he said that's more or less of a legal matter. He said you can take care of yourself, you can manage your own affairs. He said he can't touch you.
Right.
Right?
As long as they didn't have power of attorney or you never signed over anything.
Well, later he had power of attorney, but I had it revoked on him because he was nothing but a jerk for a while.
Oh, so it sounds like you handled it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, that's what I would tell you. Exactly that.
But if you can take care of yourself and then you can manage your affairs, he can't do nothing to you then, right?
Right, because you'd have to have at least 2 doctors that said you couldn't, and your doctor was saying you could, so
yeah.
You were fine.
That's what my neurologist said.
Okay. Someone else had something to say?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to do this.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to let me come and talk. And if anybody has any questions, you can call me tomorrow. Actually, I'm going to be in the office tomorrow. I don't have any hearings scheduled for tomorrow, so I will be in if you want to call tomorrow or any time that you want to call. Feel free to give me a call.
You all have a Happy New Year.
I was listening the whole time, and somebody was having a lot of trouble with filling out forms and being refused in more forms. Would your senator or representative ever be able to help you like they help veterans with these things?
Well, not to fill out the forms.
No, not to fill out the forms, but if you keep getting responses that you shouldn't be getting, like that loan question.
Absolutely. I would absolutely contact your representative and your senator.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have seen a shift in Social Security along those lines, too, that they're actually starting to take that serious. They didn't in the past. When I worked for Social Security, we would get a letter, and the judges would just laugh. But now they actually do, and they actually respond. So I would definitely say that's a great way to go. You can get online and fill it out. For your representative, your state rep, and either Stabenow or Levin. You could do both of them, too.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen more with Levin than with Stabenow.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your phone number again?
It's 616-363-4500.
4500, okay. And your name is Karen?
Correct.
Okay, if I have to call you, I will.
Okay, yeah, and even if you're filling out your paperwork and you need some help, I can answer a question here and there. I can't spend hours on the phone, but I can answer a question here and there for you without any charge.
Oh, we appreciate it.
And you're a non-attorney, right?
Correct.
Okay, you're not an attorney rep. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Well, again, Karen, thank you so much for your time, and I learned a ton on this, and I'm sure everyone else did as well, and we really appreciate your sharing your expertise with us. And like she said, if you have any further questions, you can also feel free to email or call me, and I might be able to relay a question if so we don't get the same questions being asked over and over again. So I could do that as well. So again, thanks everyone for participating. The next Learn and Share conference call is actually related to kind of what we were just talking about. It's Speak Up, Speak Out, Public Policy Advocacy for Epilepsies, and we have Bill Murphy from Epilepsy Foundation's National Office, and our president, Arlene Gorelick, will be talking about some of the key public policy issues for epilepsy and also how to get involved in the legislative process. So hopefully you can all join us for that as well. So thanks again, Karen, and thanks everyone for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your program and including me.
Oh, my pleasure.